Say hello if you're here. I'm ready to get started today on my series that I wanted to do this week on the economic measures that affect real estate. So I'm going to get started here in a few minutes. I'm going to invite a few people, see if we can get started. Let's see. All right, so today I'm going to talk about the different types of recovery, since obviously we know we're probably falling into some kind of a recession, I would imagine. So I wanted to explain a little bit about recoveries and how economists look at them, because trying to get some information out to the public, because I think that I'm seeing a lot of bears and bulls. And so as that relates to, you can be extremely negative. The sky is falling. Everything's going to fall apart. We're going to go right into a depression. Or you could be on the other extreme and you've got your head in the sand and you think everything's going to be fine. We're just going to bounce back. And then there's all the people in between. And usually with information, studying history, knowing a little bit about how the economy works, can help people make good decisions. So I just wanted to start off talking about the different types of recovery. So I'm going to do a series every day this week around 3 o'clock. And today I decided to just explain the different types of recovery. So let's do that. So right out of the gate, I heard a lot of predictions that we're just going to have a check mark recovery, which is we'll get hit a little hard and then we're going to bounce right back. And that faded very, very quickly as we started to see some things starting to happen. The most common ones, there's three that people talk about, is a V-shaped recovery. And, that's basically a recession, but it begins with a very steep decline and then a pretty steep recovery back to where we were fairly quickly. Typically, V-shape will last about 9 months. A great example of that was in the 50s. They had a booming economy, and the Federal Reserve started anticipating some inflation, so they pushed the interest rates up, and it caused a V-shape. So they sort of had to play around with the mortgage rates a little bit, and they bounced back pretty quickly, about 6 months. And the next one is the U-shaped recovery. That's typically, we take a pretty sharp decline, and we're down there for a while, and then things come back together and we come back to where we were. And those, usually it's the depth and the length that we're looking at in recoveries. So that depth and length, typically the length of those are about 12 to 24 months. Some great examples, actually not that long ago, at least that I've lived through, is 1973 to 75 recession, which I don't know that much about since that's around when I was born. But in 1981, we saw a huge peak in unemployment. It was over 10%. And also the GDP fell about almost 3% back then. And so that really created a U-shaped recovery. We definitely went into, it was over the energy crisis, so we went into a recession, and it took us a couple of years to come back out of it and get back to where we were prior to that. The next one, which is fairly scary, is the L-shaped, and that's definitely talking about a depression. So we just take a sharp decline, and it's not pretty at all, and it lasts a very, very long time. There's very stagnant growth, and typically that will be something that lasts over, it can be like the last time we had a depression in 1939. It lasted, in 1929, it lasted through 1939, so like a whole decade to actually get back to where we were before all of that happened. Interestingly enough, there's one coming up that I typically don't see when I'm reading about recoveries, and that is pretty popular right now, and it's called the W-shaped recovery, which involves basically a sharp decline, we bounce back, and then we have another sharp decline, and then we bounce back again. And I don't really know what the length of time that would be. I think it's a very volatile situation. The middle of it is a bear market. It really stifles, it can create a crisis, really, because just as we think we're coming back up, investors start to get in too early, and then something happens and it causes a sharp decline again. And so it's kind of like a double dip recovery. So what I want to share with you is not my opinion on what I think is going to happen. I do believe that there is some truth in what you focus on expands. And so I really try to stay away from being super negative or being so positive that I'm not really paying attention to what's going on. So over the last, month or so, there's been polls being taken from, the top 45 economists. Reuters does a poll with these people fairly frequently, and they give their opinions about what they think there is going to happen. Well, a couple of weeks ago, out of 45, 23% of them actually thought we were going to have a V-shaped recovery, which means in less than a year we would be okay. So we would get hit hard, but everybody get back to work and everything was going to be fine. But I think with the unemployment numbers coming out and even more recently the GDP decline, now I think they're starting to reevaluate. And so out of 45 of these economists, 22 believe that it'll be a U-shaped recovery as it's related to COVID-19. 10 think it'll be a V-shaped, so those are the optimists. 7 still think we're going to be in a checkmark recovery, that once we get back, everything's going to be fine and we'll all get back to business and it'll feel like it was just a couple of months ago. And then 5 of these economists think that we're going to have a W-shaped. So I'm typically one of those people that sort of likes to eliminate the bears and the bulls and sort of look in the middle. But of course, you have to make up your own mind, and I don't like to make those predictions. But I will tell you there's a science that they use when they're looking at what type of recovery we're going to have. And there's 3 things that they look at, and that's business science. So how long will it take the economy to rebound? And what if slowdowns look like in the past? And it's pretty difficult because we haven't had a COVID-19 in the past and anywhere in near history. So the business review is difficult. There's also the health science that we look at. So when will COVID-19 be under control? So, we hear a lot of different news and a lot of different stories. So depending on what you're focused on and what your belief is going to be, they're talking about vaccines sooner than later. Some people are saying it's going to be forever. So you kind of have to go with your instincts, and that's what economists do. So they're looking at, is there going to be another flare-up? So that's where we have the V's and where we have the W's. So people that believe we'll have a second flare-up, I think they're the ones saying we're going to have a W recovery. And then last, they look at the social science. So after all of this is over, the American consumer has to get back out there. When are they going to want to go to the movies? When are they going to want to go to sporting events? When do they want to get on a plane? So there's a challenge in accurately combining all of these 3 sciences and making a prediction on what type of recovery it'll be. But now you have the information, and you can kind of, put that together with your thoughts and the news that you're reading and which way you lean toward what you think is going to happen. And you can make up your own mind. Now, my next series tomorrow, I'm going to talk about unemployment, and I'm going to talk about the GDP, which has a direct effect on real estate. So I hope you'll tune in. I do want you to know that we're going to put some charts together and some visuals for you to see, and we'll put it in the feed so that you can visually see some of the things that I look at and rehash this a little bit if you're interested in the economics of real estate. So I do appreciate everybody turning in and checking in with me on this. And I'll be doing this again tomorrow, Tuesday at 3. Thank you so much, and take care. If you have any questions, put them in the comments, and we will reply to all of you. Thank you. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.